Hi, this is Kevin from Let Me Tech You, and in this video, we're going to be going over how to refactor your code and why you should be doing this as you're building out your environment. So, when working with Terraform, a lot of it when you're first starting out, a lot of the times you're going to be keeping a lot of the stuff within the same file, and a lot of that could depend on the size of the project, what kind of resources you're building, things like that. But when you're starting to work within like large teams or very large complex infrastructures and things like that, you're going to want to refactor and possibly even go back and refactor some of the code that you might have done just to make it a little easier for people to read and see what's going on. So the good thing about refactoring code and moving things around is it doesn't affect how the code runs or break anything in regards to what you currently have in or what you currently have built, as long as you do it correctly. So what we're looking at here is my main.tf, and we got our Terraform providers block, our variables, our resources, all within the same file, this main.tf here. So I created a folder called refactor, and I have a TFVARs file, which I did put some in here, but I'm going to show you the reason for this here in a sec. I have a network folder that I created, a provider, not folder, but file, a variables file, and a VM file. So these names don't necessarily mean anything. You can name these whatever you want, but you kind of want to keep these in regards to what you're building kind of relatable. So if I was to do a Terraform, let me just initialize this real quick here. So what I'm going to do is a Terraform plan. Oh, it's actually looking for a variable, which, let me back out of this. Probably going to delete my state file because it's probably locked up. So let me see. I need to tell it where, there we go. I use it. Okay. So I just need to use my TFVARs file, but I'll get back to why I use that here in a second. So now this is going to run through the plan and see what all needs built and give me back output on what's going to be built, how much is going to be changed, and what's going to be destroyed. So we got 5 things to add here: 0 to change, 0 to destroy. So that's good. So I'm not going to deploy this yet, but what we're going to do is let's refactor this. Let's pretend like we deployed this, right? And we're going to come back in and we're going to move some stuff around. So what I like to do is keep my provider information in a file called provider.tf. So I'm keep all that in there and hit save. Then when I'm going back in here, I see I got some variables. I want to keep my variables inside of variables.tf and save that. So now what we got left is our resource group, virtual network, subnet, interface, and VM. So let's go ahead and move this into its own file as well. So we're going to put that into the network.tf and save that. And then if we go back in here, the last thing we have is our VM interface. So let's take all of this and put it inside of the VM.tf and keep the resource group in the main.tf file. So with all that saved, we'll want to come back in here and save this. The only thing we have left in here is resource deck, the resource group. Now this doesn't necessarily, like I said, affect anything. You can have, I usually try to keep like maybe stuff that doesn't really need to be in its own file in the main.tf. It could be, one-off type of resources, things that just doesn't correlate with needing its own file. But again, you can kind of name the main.tf rg.tf and have this as the resource group. So it doesn't really matter. But I kind of always stick with like a main.tf, providers and variables for my 3, or in outputs.tf for my 4 files that are always kind of named the same. So now that that's all set up like that, what we're going to do is we're going to run another Terraform plan. And if we had ran this would say 0 to change, 0 to destroy, 0 to add. But let's see if this still has 5 to add here. So with us moving those into specific files, we now see that this doesn't actually affect anything. Nothing's being changed. We still have 5 things to add. So basically what Terraform does is it will actually put everything in, or it will take everything that's in that folder that you're in and take everything that's being either a resource that needs created and try to go out and see, based off that TF state, what do you currently have built and what don't you. So a lot of people, what they do try to do is they will, let's say this is our company name called Refactor. We might create a new folder called prod, and then we might create another folder called dev. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this, copy it, and paste it into dev. So now we have, and then we're going to take prod, grab all of this, and move it up. We're going to move that in there. We're going to take this Terraform, move that into prod. So there we go. So now we got a dev and a prod. So if we're inside this folder and we try to run a Terraform plan, or actually let's just try to run the same thing, it's not going to see anything. There's no TFRs. So now you can have separate states and information depending on, what you have. So that's a good way to prevent blowing up, or destroying resources that you wouldn't necessarily want to be destroyed. And you can make some changes in there just to make sure that you're, changing the state file name. If you're using the local backend storage, things like that, so that you're not overwriting state files and trying to create duplicate resources. So again, that's how to kind of refactor your code, make it more clean and more readable. If you have any questions in regards to doing that, maybe with any projects you are working with, drop me a comment down below. I'll be sure to get back with you. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you next time.